I almost broke it. And the camera unfocused. That's how hard I dropped it. Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? I've been over a hot stove all day long cooking your favorite meal.
Yes, sir.
Just for you. Welcome to another episode of Glaze Review, where I take glazes off the shelf, I test them on white clay, I test them on brown clay, I even mix them with some of my homemade glazes, and we see how they perform before you even buy them and take them home. In today's video, we're testing an amaco glaze called Umber Float from the Potter's Choice line, pc-39. It is at cone 5.6, and we're gonna burn this off and oxidation. I'm actually fairly excited for this glaze today because I've never seen this on the shelf before. I know how to make my own glazes, so whenever I go glaze shopping, I grab like 10 and then that keeps me good for a year for these videos. But I went to the shelf and I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is new or not, but I've never seen it on the shelf. And I kind of like those colors. It sort of reminds me of a lower gravity Randy's Red. So today we're gonna test this on a stoneware clay body with lots of texture on it, just to see if it gets a good amount of texture. This vessel also has a brother right here that I'm gonna be testing Umber Float on as well, except for on the top, I'm gonna put Lumos. A lot of people seem to like whenever I mix my Lumos glaze on top of other stuff. The recipe is on my Glaze profile, which I will link down below for you if you want the glaze recipe to my Lumos glaze. We're also going to be testing this on my favorite dark clay body, which is Redstone.
Yeah, boy.
And you know what? Just because I'm feeling extra generous today, and there's always a couple of you down in the comments below who are like, oh, you poured it on. No, you're not supposed to pour it on. You're supposed to brush it on. Their brushes says on the bottom, brushable glazes. Oh my God. Even though I've done multiple videos on why I pour my glazes instead of brushing them, and I've proven to you that they usually come out better if you pour them like that, it saves you tons of time. I'm gonna do one brush test just because I have one extra pot that doesn't have a set, and I'm feeling nice today. You better click that like button. I'm doing this for you, people who I've probably already proven wrong, but also haven't watched the videos or been with the channel for a long time. So you're gonna give your life away in the comments. I actually have a pretty special bowl for this because this is a double-walled vessel. You can see how the wall itself is already carved through, but when you look inside of the bowl itself, there's no holes. This is an advanced technique, or at least it's something that I consider an advanced technique. The bowl is a bit heavier, but this does have multiple holes in it. On the outside, you can see all the way through the clay body, although nothing on the inside. I'm even brushing the inside. Usually I pour it, but I'm brushing it just to show how much good faith I have in our transaction. I can feel time slowly moving away from me as I'm wasting copious amounts of the precious resource that is time, just brushing this one item on. I can only imagine the entirety of a kiln load would make me an 80-year-old man. Okay, as usual, let's see what we're putting in the kiln before we put it in there. This is pc-39 on a redstone clay body. There's no other glaze on this, but there is a small bit of texture on the very front, just to make sure any raised surfaces don't create an alternate texture. This is PC-39 on a white clay body. This is a stoneware clay body. Many of you will know this as bean mixed with grog. This should be really interesting considering there's a lot of texture on this. On top of that, we also have a secondary one of these, the brother to that cup, with my Lumos glaze on top of PC-39. Same texture, same everything, there's just Lumos on top of this. Lumos, my personal glaze, is a very good additive glaze, or a very good topper glaze. It's kind of like C-10 from Amaco, in that it does fine by itself, it does make the color white, but it really makes things move when you put it on top of stuff. And last but not least, we have this double-walled bowl right here that is brushed on. I know a lot of you want to see brushed on glazes because you refuse to pour for some crazy reason. I don't know, maybe you have extra time to spend on this planet. But this here is brushed on the inside 3 coats, brushed on the outside 3 coats. The fact that it's a double-walled vessel doesn't really matter. I just thought it was impressive. Now it's time to put these in the kiln. You know how stereotypically everyone where they live has like a lower area of their city, and generally speaking, and not always, it's more of a stereotype, that downtown area is a bit less clean. You know, I think if everyone or every city took care of their downtown area, it would be a little bit cleaner. A lot more of us might want to go down there. Hey, look, person to person, okay? Artist to artist, dirty potter to dirty potter. You and I both know that if the downtown area of my city was a little bit cleaner, instead of having bushes popping up everywhere, I might go shopping down there a little bit more. Lord forbid you thought I was talking about your actual city. I mean, the explosion you just had. That's right, this episode's sponsored by Manscaped and their brand new Lawnmower 4.0 package. These Lawnmower 4.0s are so good at doing what they do, being waterproof, very easy to store, chargeable, it doesn't take batteries, the blades are replaceable, unlike a lot of clippers where you have to buy a whole new set or unscrew them off. And I just want to buy a new set of razors, clip it on, and have it work. The Lawnmower 4.0 is just small enough to get into the area of the nitty-gritty that I need. Granted, they do sell nose hair trimmers and ear trimmers and whatnot, but like, I could just buy a second one and shove it in my ear. Don't tell them I said that. And because you're with me, you can get 20% off plus free shipping if you use my code EarthNC20 at checkout at manscaped.com. In my mind, I'm like, 20% off isn't that much, but then I see free shipping and I'm like, oh, shipping be costing a lot. Okay, we have everything out of the kiln. Let's take a look. Oh, this is fantastic. I love this already. You know what I love about this? Is that usually whenever you get some type of float glaze, or whenever they put like XYZ float or this kind of float, or I even have a glaze called floating blue, they usually have some semblance of rutile in them. And this rutile gives it a lot of that floating action, those little speckles that you have right there. But generally speaking, these floating glazes don't stay floaty all the way through. They usually have a very smooth base, like just straight blue, and then when you put it inside the texture, that's where you see these little floaty bits of rutile or whatever have you. I don't know what's in this recipe, I'm just guessing based off experience. The thing that I really appreciate about PC-39 from Amaco is that you can really see the float in and out of the texture. So if you look right here, there's floaty bits right here, and if you look inside the texture, there's floaty bits inside the texture as well. It has that floaty texture all the way through. And while I do enjoy multi-dimensional glazes, where it can be one thing inside of a flat surface and then another thing inside of a texture, I do also appreciate the ingenuity of making a glaze that stays the same all throughout. I do notice on the bottom of my mug though, if you don't put it thick enough, it turns just non-floaty. But you can kind of see it around the edges right there. You can really see where it tried to get floaty. But if you don't put it thick enough, I put a very thin layer on the bottom here just to kind of test this, you don't get to see the same texture that you saw on the top of the mug. Let's check out our brown test style. see, this is the reason why I do these glaze reviews on white and brown or white and dark clay, because the white clay body looked immaculate, looked fantastic, that you could see every single bit of why they call this Umber Float. But on the brown test style, it's kind of like, you can see them, but you can't see them anywhere near as well as the white test style. The white test style really shows you that texture. As for the brown test style, it's kind of like, yeah, I could see that it's trying. It's not really getting there though. I don't hate it, I do like it, although I might put it in like the discount pile on my website, earthnationceramics.com, because it does look kind of like a snow person, and like, I don't know. I don't want to sell snow people. I'm sorry. I'm a Scrooge. I don't want to sell snow people. It's not even a person if you think about it, according to the lore. Like, it's a structure that was given a magical hat and got brought to life by some magical deity. It's technically a golem. It's a snow golem if you really think about it. You know what we forgot to check out is the porcelain test style. So the first test style I showed you, this one here is on a stoneware clay body, which is a B mixed with grog. And this one over here is a porcelain test style. It's essentially the same thing that you saw on the white stoneware clay body. The only difference is it seems a lot smoother, but it is very interesting to see the way this test style moves, because I generally do my test styles in 1, 2, and 3 layers. So I dip it once here, I dip it twice, and I put it up to here, and then I dip it a third time up to here, just to see how the layers would affect the glaze itself. It doesn't seem to affect it that much, which is honestly a good thing for peace of mind, because that tells me if I put 2 or 3 layers, or even 4 layers, this is probably going to turn out relatively the same. But some glazes, you put 2 layers and it's a whole world of difference from 2 to 3 layers. Okay, let's check out that double-walled bowl now. This is actually the bowl that I brushed on for you potters, because there's so many people in the comments below about people are like, you're supposed to brush them on. There's a very clear reason I don't brush them on, that I pour them on, and this will illustrate this even further than I've already illustrated it in previous videos and glaze reviews. But on the inside, this is brushed, right? I took a brush to it. You can technically still see the brush marks here going around and around, but on the outside, I brushed 3 layers, and this is a perfect example of why I don't like to brush my stuff on, why I just usually pour it on or dip it on. You can see on the inside, you can still kind of see the brush strokes. I brushed the inside and outside, even though I said I was only gonna brush the outside. I did brush both of them just in case. You can see the top and the textures of the bowl got a lot more of that floating texture I was talking about, but there's also some areas that were just like, no, I'm gonna turn brown because I didn't get enough of the glaze on the inside of me. I'm gonna turn brown because you didn't put enough glaze there. I'm gonna turn brown because you didn't put enough glaze there. But on the parts like the top, where I did put a little extra, you can see that I got much better color from the bottle in general. And this type of layering usually naturally happens whenever I pour my stuff on. Let's see if I can find one more spot. No, the rim is pretty colored because I did that on purpose. Yeah, here's a part here where I think I was brushing around and I kind of ran out of glaze right here. But this is not preferable for me. I would much rather get this type of color or this type of color. I think most people would, honestly. Otherwise, you would just buy a bottle of Amaco's Amber Glaze and call it a day. Are you ready for this one? This one's gonna knock your socks off, assuming you're wearing socks. I know you have Raynaud's. You're like me. Your toesies get cold, your blood shuts to your organs, and you're like, oh no, it's winter and I don't know what to do about it. A little pro tip for you, you can turn your kiln on in the winter in your garage, and it's pretty much a free heater because you gotta fire your stuff anyway. I love this mug. I love it so much. I love the mugs that specifically almost get destroyed in the kiln. I don't know what it is about potter culture, but things that are like a tiny bit messed up, or like they were almost gonna die in the kiln, like this one here, you can very clearly see where it almost ran off of the kiln shelf. Multiple times, mind you. There's a spot right there, and there's a spot right there. And if I look around, there might be another one somewhere. Yeah, there's a couple of spots. Like there's one right there, but this is a rare glaze for me. I already knew that my crystal glaze runs a little bit, so I usually put it on the top and let it run through texture. And that usually makes a really good melty glaze like this, but to see it almost stop like that, Let's take one more lick, just for the good time. Amazing texture with this glaze, very good dependability, fantastic color. It plays well with some of my most runny of glazes. I love this glaze. I'm gonna give this glaze a Dirty Potter 5 out of 5. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. If you like these types of videos, comment down below what other glazes you want me to test. I know I'm a bit of an amaco boy, and if you go to my glaze review playlist and watch it through, it's like mostly amaco glazes, but that's because there's such a great distributor that they, like every single pottery store I go to has amaco glazes in there. And every now and then someone's like, can you test this one-off glaze from China that I saw in 1984? Like, no, I can't even find that glaze, let alone test it. But if you know of some good glaze companies out there and they want to send me some glazes, or you have some suggestions, please put them down in the comments below. That being said, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. Good luck on your next kiln load, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
Thank you for your patronage.
Hey there, Potters. I want to take a second to talk to you about your downtown area.